A story about standing up, speaking out, and choosing your friend over everything. It was supposed to be a celebration. A night of music, performance, and good times with people who mattered. But then something happened that revealed the ugly truth about 1959 Hollywood and Las Vegas. Security stopped Sammy Davis Jr. at the door. They wouldn't let him in. And the reason? The color of his skin. But what happened next shocked everyone in the room. One man stood up. One man said no to discrimination. And his reaction was so powerful, so unexpected, that it changed the entire course of the evening. This is a story about what real friendship looks like. About choosing principle over popularity. About standing up when it would be easier to stay silent. The night everything changed. The year was 1959. Las Vegas was at its peak. The city was glittering, glamorous, and filled with incredible entertainment. The casinos were packed. The nightclubs were legendary. The performances were spectacular. But beneath all that glamour and excitement was a dark reality. The city was segregated. Black entertainers could perform in the casinos and nightclubs, but they couldn't stay in the hotels. They couldn't eat in the restaurants. They couldn't use the same bathrooms. They couldn't be treated as guests. They could only be treated as performers, as entertainment for white audiences. Sammy Davis Jr. had become one of the biggest stars in Las Vegas. His performances were incredible. He could sing, dance, tell jokes, and play instruments. He was talented in ways that made audiences forget about the world and just enjoy the magic of his artistry. But being talented didn't protect him from discrimination. Sammy lived with the constant knowledge that he was welcomed for his talent but not for his humanity. He could entertain people, but he couldn't eat with them. He could make them laugh, but he couldn't sit with them as an equal. Dean Martin was Sammy's closest friend. They had performed together many times. They had become genuine friends, not just colleagues. Dean had a quality that was rare in 1950s Hollywood. He seemed to genuinely not care about the color of a person's skin. He treated Sammy as an equal. He stood beside him. He defended him when other people made racist comments. On a particular evening in 1959, there was a private party at an exclusive hotel in Las Vegas. It was a celebration for some of Hollywood's biggest stars. The party was by invitation only. It was the kind of event where the most important people in the entertainment industry gathered. Dean Martin had been invited, of course. He was one of Hollywood's biggest stars. The organizers wanted him there. Dean asked if he could bring Sammy. He explained that Sammy was his friend, and he wanted Sammy to be part of the celebration. The organizers were uncomfortable. "Well," they said carefully, "Sammy is welcome to perform. We'd love to have him do a show for the guests." "No," Dean said firmly. "I don't want him to perform. I want him to come as my guest. As my friend. To celebrate with the rest of us." There was an awkward pause. Everyone knew what the problem was. They just didn't want to say it directly. "Dean," one of the organizers finally said, "it's not that simple. There are rules. There are expectations. We have guests from the South. We have people who have very specific preferences." "I don't care," Dean said bluntly. "Sammy is coming as my guest. If that's a problem, then I'm not coming either." Dean had made his position clear. Sammy was going to be treated as an equal guest, or Dean would walk away from the entire event. The organizers realized they couldn't fight Dean Martin. He was too important to the industry. So they agreed, reluctantly, that Sammy could come as Dean's guest. That should have been the end of the story. But it wasn't. When racism showed its ugly face, Sammy arrived at the hotel for the party that evening. He was dressed beautifully in an expensive suit. He was excited about the night ahead. He was going to spend time with his friend Dean at a celebration with some of the biggest names in Hollywood. But as soon as he walked through the front doors of the hotel, he was stopped. The security guard at the entrance looked at Sammy and immediately tensed. The guard was a large man, and he had been given specific instructions about who was allowed in the hotel and who was not. "Where do you think you're going?" the guard asked, not unkindly, but with absolute authority. "I'm here for the party," Sammy said, trying to be polite. "Dean Martin invited me." The guard's expression didn't change. I'm going to need you to go around back. Service entrance is that way. Sammy felt something inside him break a little. I'm not here to perform. I'm here as a guest. Dean Martin invited me. That doesn't matter, the guard said. He wasn't being cruel. Exactly. He was just following what he had been told. You can't come through the front entrance. You need to go around back. Sammy could feel other people watching now. There were hotel guests coming and going. There were people in the lobby. Everyone could see what was happening. Everyone could see a black man being told he couldn't use the front entrance. Sir, I understand, Sammy said quietly. But I'm a guest tonight. Not a performer. I'm here to celebrate with friends. Policy is policy, the guard said. He wasn't being sympathetic. He wasn't being cruel. He was just being efficient. Around back. Sammy stood there for a moment, trying to process the humiliation. He had performed in this hotel dozens of times. He had made this hotel money. He had entertained the guests. And yet, he still couldn't use the front door. That's when Dean Martin walked into the lobby. Dean was looking for Sammy. They had planned to meet in the lobby and walk into the party together. But instead of seeing his friend approaching confidently, Dean saw Sammy being stopped by security. Dean understood immediately what was happening. He walked directly to the security guard and to Sammy. What's going on? Dean asked, though he already knew. Your friend here needs to use the service entrance, the guard said. It's hotel policy. Dean looked at the guard. Then he looked at Sammy. And in that moment, Dean made a choice that would echo through Hollywood. Sammy, Dean said calmly, let's go. But he wasn't talking about going into the party. Let's go, Dean repeated. We're leaving. Dean took Sammy's arm and turned around. They walked toward the exit. The lobby went silent. People stopped what they were doing. Everyone understood what was happening. Dean Martin, one of Hollywood's biggest stars, was walking out of an exclusive party because his friend was being discriminated against. The security guard and the hotel staff didn't know what to do. They had lost one of the event's biggest draws. They had made a choice to enforce segregation, and it was costing them dearly. One of the party organizers came running after Dean. Dean, wait, the man called out. Please, come back. We can work this out. Dean stopped and turned around. His face was calm but angry. You can work it out by letting my friend use the front door, Dean said. He's not a servant. He's not a performer tonight. He's my friend. And friends don't use back doors while their friends use front doors. But, the organizer started. No but, Dean interrupted. You have rules. I understand. But those rules are wrong. Those rules are evil. And I won't be part of a place that treats people like this. Dean took Sammy's hand. They walked toward the exit together. Behind them, the party continued. The other guests went back to their conversations. The music kept playing. The celebration went on. But everyone in that hotel knew what had just happened. Everyone understood that Dean Martin had chosen his friend over his career. He had chosen principle over popularity. He had chosen to stand up against discrimination. And most importantly, he had shown Sammy something that Sammy needed to know. That he had a friend who would stand beside him no matter what. As they walked out of the hotel, Sammy was fighting back tears. Dean, Sammy said quietly, you didn't have to do that. You were invited. You should have gone to the party. Without you. Dean said. No. If you can't go as a guest, then I'm not going either. We came together. We leave together. When one man's stand changed everything. What happened that night spread through Hollywood like wildfire. A major studio head had witnessed Dean's reaction. Several journalists were at the hotel. Within hours, the story was being discussed everywhere in the entertainment industry. The headlines were powerful. Dean Martin walks out in protest of racial discrimination. Hollywood star stands up for friend against segregation. Dean Martin's loyalty challenges Las Vegas racism. The story wasn't negative for Dean. It was positive. People respected what he had done. Audiences loved him even more. Other entertainers started thinking about their own positions on discrimination. But more importantly, What Dean did had real consequences. The hotel where the party had taken place suddenly found itself under scrutiny. Journalists started asking questions about their segregation policies. Customers started boycotting the hotel. The story became a symbol of the ugliness of racial discrimination. Within weeks, the hotel announced that they were changing their policies. Black guests would be allowed to use all the same facilities as white guests. The segregation was over at that particular hotel. But the impact extended far beyond that one hotel. Other entertainers saw what Dean had done, and they started taking similar stands. Performers began refusing to work at venues that segregated their patrons. They began demanding that black guests and black performers be treated with equal dignity. The entertainment industry started changing. Not because it suddenly became more moral, but because entertainers like Dean were willing to put their careers on the line to demand change. Sammy Davis Jr. found doors opening that had previously been closed. Not everywhere, and not immediately, but because of people like Dean who stood up, change became possible. The relationship between Dean and Sammy deepened after that night. They had always been friends, but now they were bonded in a deeper way. Sammy knew that Dean had his back, no matter what. Dean knew that he had made a choice that mattered. In the years that followed, Dean became known as someone who didn't tolerate racism. He was invited to events and brought black friends and black colleagues. He walked out of situations where discrimination was happening. He used his platform and his power to push for change. More than that, Dean's actions that night became a turning point in how Hollywood viewed race. It showed that you didn't have to accept discrimination as normal. It showed that one person could make a difference. It showed that standing up for what's right was more important than being invited to the right parties. Years later, when Sammy Davis Jr. reflected on his life and his career, he talked about that night in the lobby of the hotel. He talked about how it felt to have a friend who loved him enough to walk away from success rather than accept his humiliation. "That's real friendship," Sammy said in an interview. "That's real love. When someone is willing to sacrifice their own comfort for your dignity." What it really means to stand up. This story teaches us something fundamental about human nature and human courage. Real friendship means being willing to sacrifice for the other person. Dean Martin had a lot to lose by walking out of that party. He was one of Hollywood's biggest stars. The event was important. The people who organized it were important. Being seen at the right parties, with the right people, was important for his career. But Dean understood something that many people don't. There are things more important than career advancement. There are principles that matter more than popularity. There is dignity that matters more than success. When Dean saw his friend being discriminated against, he didn't hesitate. He didn't try to negotiate. He didn't try to make a deal. He simply said, "That's not okay. And I'm not going to accept it." That's what real friendship looks like. It's not just enjoying each other's company. It's not just having fun together. Real friendship means being willing to sacrifice when it matters. This story also teaches us, **** discrimination survives because good people stay silent. ***. The hotel had segregation policies because people accepted them. The guards enforced those policies because they were following orders. The other guests at the party accepted the discrimination because it didn't affect them. But all it took to challenge the system was one person saying no. One person walking away. One person refusing to accept something that was wrong. Think about all the ways discrimination and injustice continue in our world. Most of the time, it's not because of evil people doing obviously evil things. It's because good people stay silent. It's because people accept that's just how things are. It's because nobody wants to rock the boat. But what if we were more like Dean? What if we were willing to say no, that's not acceptable, and I'm not going to participate in it? There's also a lesson about using your privilege and power for others. ***, if you have status, if you have influence, if you have power, you have a responsibility to use it for people who don't have those things. Dean Martin had status in 1959. He was a major star. He had influence. He had power. He could have used that status to advance his own career. He could have used it to become even more famous, even more successful. Instead, he used his status to challenge an unjust system. He used his influence to speak up against discrimination. He used his power to help someone who was being treated unfairly. That's what people with privilege should do. Not all the time, not in every situation. But when they see injustice, when they see discrimination, when they see someone being treated unfairly, they should use what they have to stand up for what's right. This story also teaches us, standing up for what's right is never going to be convenient . Dean could have gone to the party. He could have told Sammy, "I'm sorry, but this is just how things are right now. Let's find something else to do tonight." That would have been easier. That would have been more comfortable. But it wouldn't have been right. And Dean chose what was right over what was comfortable. That's a choice we all face, many times in our lives. We see something unfair. We see someone being treated badly, and we have to decide, will we speak up, even though it's uncomfortable? Or will we stay silent and accept it? There's also a powerful lesson about what real love means. Love isn't just kind words and pleasant moments. Love is being willing to sacrifice for the other person, even when it costs you something. Dean's action that night was an expression of love for Sammy. It wasn't romantic love. It was the deep, brotherly love of true friendship. It was saying, "You matter to me more than my own comfort." When Sammy talked about that night later in life, he talked about the deep gratitude he felt. He talked about knowing, in that moment, that he had a true friend. Not someone who would be his friend when it was easy and convenient, but someone who would stand beside him when it was difficult. Finally, this story teaches us, one person standing up can change things. Before Dean walked out of that hotel, segregation was just accepted as normal in Las Vegas. It was the way things were. But Dean's action, walking out, refusing to accept it, became the symbol of change. That single action didn't end segregation immediately, but it cracked the wall. It showed that segregation could be challenged. It inspired other people to challenge it. It started a conversation that led to real changes in policy. One person, one decision, one moment of courage. That's all it took to start moving the needle toward justice. So here's the question for you. When you see something wrong, will you stay silent? Or will you be like Dean Martin and speak up? When your friend is being treated unfairly, will you have the courage to stand beside them, even if it costs you something? Because that's what defines us as human beings. Not our success, not our status, not our popularity, but our willingness to stand up for what's right and for the people we care about. Dean Martin's walk out of that hotel wasn't just about one night. It was about a choice he made about what kind of person he wanted to be. And because he made that choice, he became a legend not just for his talent, but for his character. That's the kind of legacy that really matters. Like and subscribe. This incredible story of loyalty and courage just proved that standing up for what's right matters more than anything else. If Dean Martin's decision to walk out in support of his friend inspired you to think about your own choices and how you can stand up against injustice, hit that like button right now. Subscribe to watch more stories about real heroes who chose principle over popularity. In the comments below, tell us, have you ever stood up for someone who was being treated unfairly? What did it cost you? Your story could inspire thousands of people to find their own courage. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss another story about people who refuse to accept discrimination and injustice. Subscribe now and join our community of people who believe that real friendship, real love, and real loyalty are worth any sacrifice.